Delighted to be joined by Johnny and John. Johnny, if I can start with you, if you can tell us a little bit about the connection between Moreld and Global Maritime.
Yes, thanks. Well, Global Maritime as a company been around since 1979, but owned by the private equity firm High-Tech Vision since 2012. At the end of 2019, the decision was taken to form Moreld, which was a collection of existing high-tech companies that have been brought together under one umbrella to try and take forward some of the synergies that already existed between the companies, and also to develop some new product services in support of the energy transition. And as part of that, three of the initiatives have been special purpose vehicles within Moreld. Those being Moreld Ocean Wind, that are focused on technology and EPCI provision for floating offshore wind farms. Moreld Aqua, looking particularly at development in the offshore aquaculture industry. And also Hide Point, which is looking at, again, transferable skills that can be moved into hydrogen.
Excellent. So, John, you're going to tell us a little bit more about High Point.
Yeah, so really from the perspective of hydrogen, what we're looking at is usually in opportunities where we can maximise the ability to produce and use hydrogen offshore and use it in a very decentralised manner. Now, using the skill sets within Global Maritime for hydrodynamics, mooring analysis and vessel construction, we understand the components required in order to be able to deliver hydrogen offshore. So what we're looking at from our perspective is to try and use our skills and repurpose them for hydrogen production in the offshore environment. And that really is taking on some of the requirements for hydrogen as we see the hydrogen economy growing out over the next number of years.
So that kind of plays into a lot of the kind of key themes that we're seeing and have been hearing about over the last 3 days. What would have been some of your key takeaways, John?
Well, for me, first of all, is the energy throughout the whole conference. There's a huge amount of activity that's happening not only in Norway but in Northern Europe. And but now we're looking at a more diverse energy ecosystem. We're not just talking about oil and gas, but we're talking about CCUS, hydrogen, and e-fuels, and how these things can bring us towards net zero. And for ourselves, I think that's a very important thing to bring home, and also the fact that it's very authentic in its desires and its requirements. And like the oil industry is going through an upturn at the moment, but it's a part of that boom that's going to allow the financing for a lot of the energy transition that we're seeing happening at the moment. And really the theme that I've taken away from here is the fact that people are recognising the requirements for energy transition, they're able to finance it, and they're delivering projects in that area as well.
And a lot of our clients are in a similar position. They're legacy oil and gas companies that are diversifying into this energy transition space. And if we look to the future, Johnny, what can we expect from Moreld as an organisation?
I think it's going to be a very exciting few years for Moreld. I think the start that we've made together over the last 2.5 years has been an excellent one. We've been taking the various skills and, let's say, the transferable knowledge that John was talking about from across the group of companies, and bringing that together into something that's been much greater than the sum of all its parts. But I also think we'll see the spread of the renewables and the energy transition markets further around the world. We've seen it ourselves, particularly going back maybe 10 to 15 years, 95% an oil and gas company. But now more than a third of the whole turnover of Global Maritime is coming through renewables industry and predominantly offshore wind. And that's now taking us into other parts of the world as well. We've just opened a new business in South Korea to support the growing industry there. Australia, also a new thing for us. And I think together with those initiatives that are internal to GM potentially, and the work we're doing together with those special purpose vehicles we talked about within Moreld, like the floating wind, the aquaculture, the hydrogen, that we're going to see a much more diverse portfolio over the next 3 to 5 years.
Great to hear. A successful company, fully integrated strategy by the sounds of it, straddling multiple markets. Thanks very much for talking to us, and I wish you well for the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, pleasure.